Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome you all to another episode of the Architects Discussion Forum, which is organized by the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects. Mr. M. Camllus De Hoedt was the head of the group procurement of the Walkers CML Group A, group of companies which comprises of 23 entities in infrastructure development sector, such as construction of roads, building, water supply projects, mechanical engineering, shipbuilding and repairs, supplies infrastructure for centralized air and ventilation system, power generation to the natural grid of Sri Lanka, investment services and many other sectors. Also, Mr. Camllus is a consultant, visiting lecturer, course director, assistant treasurer and a member of the Council of Management of the Institute of Supplies and Material Management in Sri Lanka, which is an associate institute to the Institute of Architects of Sri Lanka. Mr. M. Camllus De Hoedt obtained his master's degree at Rajarata University of Sri Lanka after obtaining his basic qualifications in the area of supply chain management at the Institute of Supply and Material Management, Sri Lanka. He also undergone many other supply chains related to training in overseas as well as in locally. So welcome on stage Mr. M. Camllus De Hoedt to do your presentation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for your introduction about me. So let me first of all wish you a pleasant evening, and then let me thank the President of Architect OSLIA Sri Lanka, Mr. Russell Dandaniya, and then Architect Mr. Rohana Bandara Herath, he's the Senior Vice President, and then Vice President Architect Mrs. Dulmini Dimel, and the Treasurer Mr. Damit Prematilaka, as well as the President of OPA, Organization of Professional Association of Sri Lanka, Mr. Dulita Pereira, and then his vice presidents and all office bearers and also the council members. And then finally, let me thank my president of the Institute of Supplies and Materials Management, Mr. Sarath Gamage, and his vice presidents and the council members for allowing and inviting me to make this small presentation at this forum. And my topic is how significant supply chain management for architectural well-being. So apart from all what I said, let me congratulate the organizing committee for their hard work in organizing such wonderful exhibition. So I just went and had a look at the stalls and the organizing of this wonderful event. So with that, and we know that in the market and in the environment, we are in a quite difficult situation in locally as well as in Sri Lanka, the overseas. And then let's go to the presentation. Okay, so here with architects' role in construction. Now we are mostly discussed about the construction industry in Sri Lanka as well as the involvement of the architectures and then the supply chain professionals. The architect is the skilled professional who plans and design buildings and generally plays a key role in their construction. So he is the person, so they are highly trained and they have the art and the science of building design. And then from the beginning of the construction until the final or the end of the project, architect is responsible and he is looking after the entire operation, and he will ensure that the final product is same as what he designed and what he promised to his client. And the supply chain management. The supply chain management is talking about any product, starting from the very basic raw material, and then the raw material suppliers, and then through the suppliers, the raw material is go to the manufacturing, and then it comes through the distribution to the retail market or the retail location, and then we, or maybe the end customer, purchase it for their requirement. And then the same way the construction industry, we purchase all the materials through the supply chain management, and because of the supply chain management discuss about all the materials that we find even here. Now we see that there are a lot of stalls that they are selling materials which are manufactured for the construction, and then everywhere you find the supply chain. And when it comes to supply chain in the construction industry, so the construction supply chain, if you look at this particular diagram on your right hand side, the end customer. So the architect is designed maybe the building or the home or the house, whatever it is, according to the maybe the daydream made by the end customer or the individual who is looking to build his home for his family. And then there are two major players in this particular activity, that is the professional service firm, so including architect, and then maybe structural engineers, maybe the designers and quantity surveyors. So those kind of people comes under professional service firms, and then the construction or the civil engineering firm. And then for them, for the construction and civil engineering firms, we require materials. So the materials are coming through the suppliers, and then the raw materials, component, those kind of things are required to manufacture the final materials or the fittings required to finish the particular building or the house. So then there's labor component also to complete this process, and then there are labor contractors, and then labor contractors are acquiring their material or the labors from the labor market, and then for maybe for the professional services we require equipment, and then there are equipment providers, and then equipment to be provided maybe through the manufacturers, maybe purchasing outright, or maybe by making of renting for a short term for the particular requirement. And then here it shows certain activities in construction, and then it starts from the design, which the architects are usually does, and they are responsible for the design, and then estimation and planning, so that is within the consultancy firm, and then we need finances to realize the particular design, and we require maybe the land or the place to build the particular construction, and then we require consultants and the contractors, and then we require land developments, and then maybe foundation work, maybe piling, and land preparations things has to be done. And then there are labor contractors, and then the material contractors, tools and equipments, and then there must be logistics. And today, according to, as per the emerging world situation, maybe due to COVID, and as well as now these days we are talking about emerging war situation within Russia and Ukraine. And then these kind of situations definitely in the future will be effect to the logistics of the material, very especially the material which are coming from overseas for our construction industry will be affected. Even today we are facing a lot of difficulties when we are trying to bring down materials from various countries. So if this particular situation lasts longer, so then we may have to face rather difficulties in the future. So then quality control, so each and every material needs to pass through the quality control, so the quality is the fit for the use, and then for each and every requirement, or maybe for certain development projects, there are certain level of quality that's required. So those kind of things are looked after by the consultants, and then they need to approve all the materials that we are trying to, or we are bringing to utilize to build the particular building. And then certain deadlines needs to be met to ensure that the particular design to be completed within the expected period of time. And then the settlements, maybe for the material, maybe for the labor providers or the equipment providers, and then maybe certain interior designing part has to be done, and then the landscaping, and then the housewarming. So up to this situation of housewarming, it's going to be quite long journey, and then during this journey there are a lot of professionals, maybe people or the service providers, the companies and the suppliers has to be involved. So then managing all these things is a duty of supply chain professionals. So the supply chain professionals are the ones usually deal with all these service providers on behalf of the client. For all these players, maybe having their own supply chain professionals to ensure their raw materials or all the inputs to be made according to the deadlines and for the requirement. But ultimately, the supply chain professionals who are looking after maybe the final or the end user or the main client or the owner of this particular building has to be responsible for all these the activities to be made within the given time. And then here it shows how in the construction supply chain works. So on your left hand side you can see the owner, and then owner may be hiring a designer, and then designer may be hiring consultants, maybe not only single consultant, there may be number of consultants for different activities. And then there can be the main contractor, and the main contractor also might have the suppliers who are directly supplying to the main contractor, and then to the particular finished product or particular the main activity, and then even the owners might be having their own suppliers, and then under main contractor there can be several subcontractors, and then even the subcontractors may have different suppliers. So then while look at this, I think we can understand how difficult and how significant the supply chain management in all these activities. So when it says supply chain management, earlier we were talking about purchasing management as a different subject, and then stores management or the material management as a different subject, and as well as the import and export process or the logistics as a different subject. So combination of all these activities are we call today as supply chain management. So the information flow and has to be moved towards both ways, and then flow of material always moving from right hand side to left hand side, that is from supplier side to owner side, and then flow of funds moving from owner side towards supplier side. So this is a model to understand the activities of the supply chain management in construction industry. There can be different supply chain for the labor market. You know, today for the construction industry, one of the biggest difficulty is to finding out laborers as and when they require. So even in the past, the places where I was to work, for an example, when I was at Marg Engineering, so we had to hire, or we had to sometimes import laborers from different countries, and then we had to have certain agreements with three forces to get some of the skilled people to work as workers in the construction sites. So even today, it is becoming an issue. So as these days, many sectors are not functioning properly. You might not facing such difficulties which we were facing about 3-4 years back, but in the future, soon after, all these issues be resolved. So we may have to look into this particular area. The labor scarcity in Sri Lanka is becoming definitely an issue. And then equipment supply chain. So there are quite large number of equipment importers, and then manufacturers, and then hirers. So this particular industry today is affecting due to lack of foreign currency. So but for the moment, many organizations are working with the machinery what they have at the moment, but still there is a scarcity when you really look into the market requirements. So in the future, if we do not find solutions for the financial issues that we are experiencing at the moment, we might be faced to a lot of difficulties in this particular area of equipment supply chain for the construction industry. And here I have just listed few suggestions where we can find out certain suppliers, maybe for contractors and maybe certain professionals, and how certain organizations are managing their database, maybe through contractor registration directories, right? So there can be government related organizations that are maintaining such directories, and then certain organizations, they do particular vendor registration, maybe annually and maybe certain other periodic basis. And then by public invitations also we can find out suppliers, maybe the suppliers who which have been emerged or which have been registered or started business recently. So even those kind of suppliers we might be able to find out through these kind of activities. And then even this nature of exhibitions and trade fairs are one of the key areas where any supply chain professional or any individuals who are looking to find out material will be able to find out good suppliers. And then final point is here the supply chain professionals database. So if you are a good supply chain professional, definitely we must have our own database of all these service providers. That is one of the key areas to evaluate whether you are such a high level professional in the particular field. So therefore each and every supply chain professional usually maintain their own database of these kind of suppliers. So that is in construction industry also it's remains same. And then here I have just mentioned few basic material requirements. So we all know about all these things, but if you analyze the market situation of each and every material at the moment, you will be able to find out a lot of issues, maybe a certain scarcity in the market, and maybe certain difficulties in finding out good quality material. So therefore we always require the service maybe of a consultant who can find out or who can let us know the quality, whether the material is suitable for the particular building project or maybe for your dream home, to ensure the well-being with the final build which made through the design of architect. And then here I just thought to highlight maybe one or two points that I have identified during recent past about certain base materials. Now due to dollar crisis, we have seen that the supply, many suppliers are facing difficulties to ensure the continuation of supplying. Now one of the basic material is cement. So we see that everywhere we find it difficulty in finding out cement continuously. And then there are certain suppliers now these days, certain cement suppliers who are now thinking of changing their products, maybe trying to move from OPC to certain other blended varieties. So one of the major supplier in the market have announced that they are going to move away from the particular cement that they were supplying, and then they are looking for to supply something else. So these kind of things are very critical in construction when it comes to the quality and when it comes to the durability kind of things. So therefore, I just thought to highlight that particular point here. For I believe that it would be one of the key areas to think, because all these things are happening because of maybe one point may be the foreign currency scarcity, and the other point may be the difficulty of finding vessels to bring down material from overseas countries. The other point which I wanted to highlight here, as a supply chain professional, I have seen in many organizations their supply chain decisions in the strategic level are made in many occasions not by supply chain professionals. So I have seen in construction industry there's a scarcity in supply chain professionals. So I believe that the Institute of Supplies and Materials Management, where I am representing, we are developing the knowledge and the professionals to the market, but I see that still there is a scarcity in among the such construction organization. And then even when I look at certain vacancy announcements, even when the organizations are looking for supply chain professionals, they may not giving much consideration on the knowledge people have acquired in supply chain management. I believe that as a weakness as an industry. So I think we need to address those kind of situations. So I believe the OPA, Organization of Professional Association, where the Institute of Architects and the Institute of Supply Chain or the Institute of Purchasing and Materials Management is associating, would be a good forum to discuss these matters and see the ways and means to overcome this kind of situations. So with that note, let me convey my sincere thanks to the organizing committee. Thank you very much.